Okay, so you ever like think about what goes on kind of behind the scenes of, those glossy perfume ads? You see those perfectly curated beauty
Ah.
shelves.
Hmm.
Well, we are about to take a deep dive into the world of wholesale merchants in perfume and cosmetics.
Yeah.
And we're doing that thanks to some really awesome resources
Yeah.
from RoleCatcher.
It's a career path I think most people don't even realize is there.
Right.
But it's absolutely crucial to how those, amazing perfumes, those must-have beauty products actually, appear in your shopping bag.
Totally. And from what I'm seeing from RoleCatcher, it's way more strategic, way more fast-paced than anyone would think.
Oh, yeah.
Like, forget just loving perfume. These guys have got to be trend spotting, deal making, masters of logistics. So, like, what's the insider take? What do these wholesale merchants actually do all day?
So imagine this. You're at like this massive trade show, right?
Hmm.
Surrounded by the newest perfumes, the latest skincare innovations, all that. But you're not just there to like browse.
Right.
You're on a mission, right?
Yeah.
You need to analyze what's going to be a hit, what the competition's doing, what's going to work for the buyers that you work with.
Just like you have your finger on the pulse of like the entire beauty world,
Exactly.
trying to like predict what everyone's going to be craving next season, next year. It's like RoleCatcher gives this example of a wholesale merchant who used this new software that like tracks online trends to
Wow.
predict which fragrances would be best sellers. And it completely like changed their wholesale strategy.
Yeah. That's a great example of how technology is like changing everything.
Right.
This isn't about, handwritten orders and phone calls anymore. It's e-commerce. It's using all this logistics software, it's influencer marketing strategies.
Wow.
A successful wholesale merchant needs to like be on top of all of it.
Speaking of influencer marketing, I'm kind of curious how that plays into everything because it seems like these days, every beauty brand is partnering with online personalities to reach new customers. So where does the wholesale merchant like fit into all of that?
It's a good question, and it really shows how adaptable you have to be in this role. Think about it. A few years ago, this was all about department stores and boutiques.
Right.
Now you could be making deals with like major online retailers or even like directly with influencers who have tons of followers. It's way more complex and there's more opportunity than ever before.
It's like they're not just like managing inventory, they're managing like influence too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And speaking of influence, RoleCatcher puts a lot of emphasis on the people skills you need for this.
Right.
It's not just, being a numbers person.
No, definitely not. Actually, one of the things they highlight is being able to build those strong relationships
Oh, interesting.
with buyers, suppliers, even those influencers we were just talking about. It's about knowing what they need, building that trust, becoming a partner, really.
Yeah, it makes you realize there's like a real human element to all of it.
Oh, for sure.
Even with all the tech,
Uh-huh.
like you could have the best software in the world,
Right?
but if you can't connect with the people you're working with,
Yeah.
it's not going to get you very far. I mean, RoleCatcher even said that something like 78% of the job relies on, quote, customer and personal service.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You got to think, you're not just selling a product.
Right.
You're selling like a vision, an experience.
Yeah.
You have to make that buyer believe that like this new fragrance is going to like fly off the shelves. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or you have to convince the supplier that you're the best partner to get their products out there in front of the right people.
Okay, so you need the market knowledge, the tech skills, the people skills.
Yeah.
Anything else? Like, what does somebody need to actually thrive in this kind of role? Because RoleCatcher makes it seem like a pretty demanding job.
It definitely can be. They don't, try to hide the challenges. It's a lot of long hours, pressure to be ahead of all the trends, constant negotiation.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And that's where that adaptability comes in again, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, what's hot one day in the beauty world is old news the next.
Exactly. And they had this one example. It was a case study in one of their guides about this wholesale merchant who worked with like, high-end cosmetics. But then all of a sudden the market shifted towards, natural and sustainable products.
Oh, wow. So how did they adapt to that?
Well, instead of just, sticking with the old ways of doing things, they really like put in the work, researched all the new trends, started going to all these industry events that were focused on sustainability. They even were visiting like organic farms that were supplying ingredients for these beauty products.
Wow, they really like immersed themselves in it
Yeah, they did.
to really understand it.
And it worked.
That's amazing.
They were able to use their existing relationships and their knowledge to basically shift gears and move over to this new part of the market.
Wow.
But it took a willingness to learn and
Yeah.
to take a few risks
Yeah.
and to embrace the change.
That's so important, though, in anything, right?
Oh, yeah.
Being open to learning new things, adapting to those new situations. So, okay, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, this sounds like me. This sounds like a challenge I'd want. What would that career path actually look like for them?
Well, RoleCatcher, they break it down into stages, which is, really helpful, I think. So
Okay.
you've got your entry-level roles. You're probably like assisting the more senior merchants,
Yeah.
doing tons of market research, probably, maybe even attending those trade shows we talked about, but more as an observer at that point,
Right.
just kind of soaking it all in.
Getting a feel for things,
Yeah.
making those initial connections.
Exactly. And then, as you move up, you might become like a junior merchant.
Okay.
And that's where you start to take on more responsibility. Maybe you're identifying potential buyers or like suppliers, analyzing market trends, maybe even helping out with negotiations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're really putting those skills to the test.
Yeah.
You're learning from people who've been doing it longer.
Exactly. And then, after you've got the experience, the expertise, you could move all the way up to a senior merchant position.
Wow.
And that's the top. That's where you're leading a whole team. You're developing those long-term strategies. You're overseeing these big deals. You're really like shaping how the whole wholesale side of the company operates.
Wow, from entry level to like running the whole show. That's pretty amazing. It sounds like there's a lot of room to move up in this field. But no matter like where you are in that journey, RoleCatcher makes it seem like the learning never really stops, does it?
That's very true. They actually recommend, you got to stay up to date on, all those industry publications, go to the conferences, be active in those online communities where all the, beauty trends kind of pop up.
Yeah.
Because even those, those seasoned professionals, they can pick up new things all the time and, stay ahead of the game.
Totally. And it's not just about, knowing the new lifted colors or whatever. I mean, we talked about like the sustainability thing, but I'm sure there's always new ethical things to consider, like sourcing.
Yeah.
There's going to be regulations changing all the time in the beauty world, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a big part of what RoleCatcher really, I think, wants to stress.
Okay.
Wholesale merchants, they can't just know about, the products.
Right.
They have to know about everything around them, too, the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, you got to have your finger on the pulse of everything. I mean, consumer trends, global supply chains, ethical sourcing.
It's a lot.
It's kind of mind-boggling.
It is. But you know what? I think that's what makes it so interesting. It's not just about, the beauty industry. It's about business. It's about ethics. It's about, global trends, all of it. It's a lot to balance, but it can be really, really rewarding.
Speaking of rewarding, did they give any hints about the kind of impact that a really good wholesale merchant, like what they can actually do? I mean, I'm imagining someone who not only spots trends, but maybe they can even like influence a whole product line or like help some small brand take off.
Yeah, totally. RoleCatcher, they talk about how important it is to advocate for what you believe in, the products, the brands. You're not just a middleman. You're the one with the good taste, the connector. You see the potential in something and you get it out there in front of the right people.
That's a cool way to think about it. And in a world where there's like a million options for everything, to be able to cut through all that and be like, no, this is something special, that's got to be so valuable.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's, if anyone's listening to this, if this is interesting at all, if you like the beauty industry, but you also like that strategy part of it and building relationships and just constantly learning new things.
And maybe like, predicting the future a little bit with trends.
Exactly. It might be something to look into.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about,
Yeah.
thanks to those amazing resources from RoleCatcher.
Yeah.
I feel like we went from knowing nothing about wholesale merchants to like getting a backstage pass to, this whole world
Right.
behind the scenes of the beauty world. It's pretty cool.
And remember, that's just the start,
It's true.
You can do your own deep dive now.
Exactly. There's always more to learn.
We covered so much, but here's a final thought as you're, exploring this career. How do you think technology like AI, or VR, how's that going to change things even more for wholesale merchants in the future?
Ooh, good question.
It's going to be interesting to see. This could be just the beginning.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you next time.